Andrew Carpenter, member of the Board of Directors here at Coventry, welcome. I'd like to talk about at first, if you wouldn't mind, in 2009 the unthinkable happened. Andrew Green put the club into administration. There was a number of the current board who were part of Andrew Green's advisory board at the time, but between you managed to secure the club. A lot of deals were done during that time. What has that meant for the finances of Coventry Rugby Club?
Well, the first point to make, Scott, is that actually it wasn't the attempt was put into liquidation, not administration, and that would have effectively meant the end of the rugby club. It would have been very difficult to resurrect it. We'd have lost our right to play through the RFU and so on. So the first job was actually to get an administrator appointed so that either we as a group or somebody would have an opportunity to rescue it. And clearly the first part of the picture was very difficult. We had to raise a lot of money. The income for the season had largely gone, the sponsorship and the season ticket money and so on. But we needed to raise money to pay the staff and the players. And that was a really difficult job to do. And we also had to spend money on things that weren't very productive at the time, but buy the club such as it was, back from the administrator, pay lawyers, etc. So there was a lot of money going out, and a lot of the money that should have been coming in wasn't. So monies had to be raised through share capital primarily, but soft loans as well, to make sure that the first job, which was actually to ensure survival, was achieved, and that's what we did. There were dark times, and the first 12 to 16 months was all about surviving. That was job one, to make sure that we were still here. And it was a very, very difficult period. And as things go on, times get better and better. There's no secret, it's still difficult. It's a difficult environment to operate in. And rugby clubs are never cash rich, so it's quite a difficult equation to try and balance. But it's a lot better than it was in those days. And we were talking earlier, and I was saying, actually, when you asked me about 2009, it just seems a long time ago. Yeah. And there seems to be an awful lot of water that's gone under the bridge, thankfully, since then. So it's almost, past history to us, very much so.
I speak to a lot of people around the town, rugby people, and some people keep saying to me that there's former owners and Andrew Green still have some sort of hold over Coventry Rugby Club. Can you just tell me now who exactly owns Coventry Rugby Club?
Well, the rugby club is operated by a limited company, a private limited company, and that's required by the RFU. And the shareholders of that private limited company, in effect, they own the rugby club. And in every match day programme in the back of it, you can see the list of shareholders. I think there's 15 or 16 of them. Some share a share, if you can say that. Some own an individual share, and some, like Chris Millerchip, own a number of shares. So it's very clear who owns the rugby club. There's a separate question around the site and the lease. The rugby club, as I've described, that has now got back, re-secured a lease for 125 years for the stadium. And we don't actually pay for that, that's at a peppercorn rent, as it's called. Yeah. The rest of the site, the lease in terms of the rest of the site, is owned by a charity called Perpetual Legacy, and it was Perpetual Legacy that granted us a lease to use, a sublease to use this site. In terms of previous owners, no previous owners have any interest in either the rugby club, the limited company, or the leases that I've just described.
Okay. Since coming out of administration in 2010, the board have secured some high-profile sponsorships such as Unipark, Jaguar Land Rover and Alan Ford. How important has their contribution been to the stabilisation of Coventry Rugby Club's finances?
Well, I think it's been absolutely critical. It's been a very, very important part of this jigsaw. Not just in monetary terms, but particularly for Jaguar Land Rover and for Unipark Logistics, in terms of the credibility that it gives us. And of course there are several other big businesses that we've managed to attract as well, such as Broza and Lawrence Automotive Interiors, and of course Elliott as well. We're standing in this new facility. And those, and of course all of the medium and the small sponsors, they've played an enormous part. And as I said, not just money, credibility too, but also, frankly, particularly for the bigger sponsors in terms of what they bring to the party and what they do. So if you look at the half-term rugby clubs, just as a small example, at Unipark Logistics support, that's been a great success, being built on all of the time, and it's just a small example of lots and lots of things that they do and that they bring to the party. Luke Myring, as you know, is an employee of Unipark Logistics. And they're fantastic sponsors. Jaguar Land Rover the same. We'll be seeing the Partnership Centre refurbished over the next few weeks. And Jaguar Land Rover are very supportive and very keen for us to work amongst the community. So they bring an enormous amount.
Coventry Rugby Club now has created a community foundation charity. What does that mean for Coventry Rugby Club?
Well, the foundation, as you rightly refer to, now has charitable status for the last few months. And what that gives us is an independent vehicle that we can use, and we are using, to go out and attract community funding. It's very important to have a charity. It's very important that it's independent. There are 2 board members on the board of trustees, but there are 3 independents as well, 2 of whom have huge experience in that field. And it enables us to go to governmental bodies or charities to try and attract funding for our community programmes, particularly out in the schools as an example. And we've got the governance mechanism to be able to prove that we will do what we say and that everything is auditable. And obviously the rugby club benefits because we're out working with children in schools, our players are getting involved in that, the charity can fund that work, and our outreach of course stretches across the city and hopefully shortly into Warwickshire as well. So it's very important for us, it's something that we wanted to do. I mean, our aim, as we've said before, is to make sure that there is nobody benefiting from what comes into the rugby club itself other than the rugby club. And the charity is a way of attracting further funding to improve that picture.
What is the Board of Directors' vision for Coventry Rugby Club?
Well, I mean, the vision aside for a moment, but you know, initially it was all about survival. As I said, that's what we focused on for the first 12 to 16 months. And just being here is really, really important. It doesn't sound like much of a vision. What we want to do is we want to play our rugby at the highest possible level in a sustainable way. There is no way that we want to do something which puts at risk the existence of this rugby club. Even though it's a difficult circle to square, or however we want to describe it, we want to make sure that we're here. We want to grow this into a big community club. So we don't want just the first team. As you've seen, you know, we have Night Hawks now, we have the Henley College Academy, we have the junior section just started. And we want to grow that into a really significant community rugby club that covers the city and the county. And we want to play rugby at a high level, as I said, sustainably. And our ultimate hope is to play at the highest level in the country, but that has to be done sustainably, and that's going to take some time. There's no silver bullet.
There's recently been some new members to the Board of Directors. What experience do they bring to the board and to Coventry Rugby Club?
You're talking about Phil Kendall, John Sharp and John McGuigan. In Phil and John Sharp's case, they bring a huge amount of commercial nous. They both run businesses and own businesses based in the city and the county, and in John Sharp's case, an international business. They've got lots of experience. They know how to do it. They add into the experience that hopefully is already there. And they bring energy as well. You know, they get on with stuff. And some people will have seen some of that going on in the last few weeks, which is tremendous. They bring fresh energy, which is great. So loads of experience and nous on their parts. And then John's part too, John McGuigan, as you probably know, John was the Director of City Development in the City Council for many years, and he retired recently. And John brings all kinds of knowledge and experience that we didn't have on the board. And of course, in Phil's case, in John Sharp's case, and John McGuigan's case particularly too, huge amount of contacts and a great network around the city. And in John McGuigan's case, it's hard to think of anybody that knows more businesses and people in the city.
Okay, if Coventry, for instance, Cecil Duckworth walked through the door tomorrow and said, here's a big pot of cash, how would the future of Coventry Rugby Club be decided?
Well, the owners are the shareholders, as I said, and I should have said at that point that what we want to do is we want to grow that ownership base over time as much as we possibly can, and when opportunity arises, make it as accessible as we can. So the shareholders today, if there were to be a bid to buy the club, would have to make a decision and vote. And it's one member, one vote, or one share, one vote, I should say. So that's what would happen. However, as we've said right from the start, we don't want to see this as a single owner club. We would like to see the ownership spread. So, we would resist single ownership. That's perhaps not the right thing to say, but it's not what we would like to do. Clearly, you have to look at the opportunities that come along. Whatever is done has to be done for the absolute best interests of the rugby club and nothing else. Single owner, Cecil Duckworth is a good example of one that's definitely worked.
Yeah.
Got huge staying power, it's got huge resourcing. You and I can think of lots of examples where it definitely hasn't worked.
Yeah.
Oral being a good one.
Yes.
Many others. I mean, Oral doesn't even exist today, and other clubs we can think of that list that sadly either don't exist or are languishing. So we don't see it as the route forward. We want to grow this club and this business and make sure it's solid and safe and standing on its own 2 feet.
As you've said, we've come through a lot over the last couple of years. Last year we finished in the top 10. Was that a fair expectation of the board for last year?
Well, I think it was. I think at the end of the previous season we had a disastrous end to the season. We were relegated. And we didn't, as you know, we didn't have any contracted players because the players that we had left. By that late May, June, the RFU also delayed a decision on who was up and down, which made it a bit more difficult for us. And Phil Maynard's done a tremendous job, or did a tremendous job, in putting together a new, very largely, young and local squad. And a tremendous achievement on his part with Pete and Dave as well. And I remember going down to Wales together to see the first game, which was Merthyr Tydfil.
Yeah, it was Merthyr Tydfil, yeah.
And we didn't know what we were going to see, and I can remember some of the conversation on the way down. I think on the way back we were both quite relieved actually, because what we saw,
I think
there was a group of lads that actually, although they were raw and they were just coming together, the signs were there that it would work. I think we lost 9-8. We scored the only try.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
So we were somewhat comforted by that, and we saw through the season that they really came on and developed and got tighter. Yes, there were some issues that everybody could see, and there were 1 or 2 gaps around. But that season, I think it was a good achievement to finish about halfway in the league, and I think really back in the previous May and June, any of us would have taken that because we're trying to build a solid foundation here. And of course this year it's being built on, we can all see how. I think there's little doubt that significant progress has been made, and again, thanks to Phil and to Pete and to Dave, and that picture is building all the time. We're going to get injuries, we're in that situation at the moment, and that's testing us, and it'll test other clubs as well. It's a really tough league. It was last year. I think it's tougher this year, actually. Yeah. Because the clubs that have come up are better than the ones that went down and got more resource. So it's tough, and you look at the scores week by week and you see everybody beating everybody, almost, not quite, and clearly there's some clubs towards the top, particularly like ourselves. But at the bottom, they are suddenly beating someone else you wouldn't expect them to beat, like a Macclesfield or something. So it's a tough league.
We've had a good start to the season. I've been talking to friends and other supporters throughout the club who seem to feel a top 4 finish of the season this year is sort of a good expectation. Would you say that would be fair?
Well, expectations are a word that we're all familiar with at Cov, isn't it?
Yes.
And we've got to build steadily and get better in everything we do, on the field and off the field. And it is going to take time. I hope it is a realistic expectation. I think people are quite justified in looking at what's going on out there and saying it is. But equally, what it's about is building on last year and seeing really tangible progress. And I think we are seeing that. Whether that ends up being 4th, 5th or 6th or whatever, I'll be happy as long as we keep moving forward and we're doing that at a reasonable pace. Saturday
we play Birmingham Solihull, an old enemy, but also one of the teams that helped relegate us. How satisfying will it be to beat Birmingham Solihull on Saturday?
Well, I think we all felt it deeply, didn't we? And the scars are still there. The rules were set. I think we were a bit unfortunate in the timing of what happened to us, arguably. But the rules were there and we fell foul with them and down we came. And Birmingham Solihull, as you say, probably played the biggest part in that. So there is no doubt that it would be very satisfying to beat them. Clearly we've got some challenges. They had a good win last week. And we've got some challenges on the injuries front, but it would be very satisfying. If it's satisfying for you and for me, then that pales into insignificance in terms of how Phil feels about this. So he passionately will want to beat them on Saturday, as he always does, but Saturday I'm sure is pretty extra special for him.
Andrew, I'd like to take this opportunity for myself to thank the board and everybody else around the club that's put a lot of effort into saving Coventry Rugby Club. And I wish you all the best for the rest of the season.
Well, thanks, Scott. I think you're absolutely right in what you say. There are a lot of people that have been helping support this right from the beginning, and more come on board all the time. So there's people working really hard like yourself, like the guys here tonight, and every training night looking after the team, and people working in all sorts of ways on a match day, or just helping us in the week or at events and so on. So it's a big team picture. That's what it needs to be. That's what rugby clubs are about. I mean, I'd just like to say, the more people we get in that stand on a Saturday, the better this picture gets. So if people are watching this, please bring a friend along, or friends along, or family along. It's a great experience. It's really fun. It's really positive now, which is really pleasing. And come to anything that we put on if you can. We're having a Christmas party. It's a rugby club Christmas party, so please come along. It all helps.
Andrew, thank you very much.
Thanks, Scott.